Your views, our interviews on Spectrum, Radio 1 FM 90.
A very warm welcome. This is Spectrum on Radio 1. I'm your host, Edmond Kizito. On Spectrum tonight, the standoff between KCCA and taxi drivers and conductors. What are the issues and what should the way forward be? The standoff between KCCA and taxi drivers and conductors over what fee they should pay plunged the city into a transport crisis today, prompting a decision by KCCA to authorize Pioneer Easy Bus to deploy buses on several roads in the city to try and cover the gap. The drivers and conductors began a stay-away strike today, opposing the 120,000 shilling monthly levy being enforced by KCCA. This is the latest controversy to pit the Lord Mayor of Kampala against the Executive Director of Kampala again, Jennifer Mosisi. The buses were supposed to start work on the 1st of this month, but they were suspended because of travel spots noted in an investigation by Parliament and the lack of adequate preparations to set up the required infrastructure. One of these drawbacks is the fact that the Transport Licensing Board has not yet issued PSV licenses to Pioneer Easy Bus, on top of not inspecting the buses. Today, the buses were on the roads with no number plates, and although passengers welcomed the introduction of the buses, they complained about the fare. It was also evident that many commuters were stranded at taxi stages as the buses could not adequately cover the gap left by the taxis. All stakeholders are keen to have an improved transport system for Kampala, and thus many are unhappy that disagreements are hampering progress. So tonight we ask, why is KCCA failing to put its house in order so as to deal with service delivery? Also, should the taxi operators be ignored in favor of bus operators? And what is Parliament's view on the latest development, given the fact that they are still carrying out their own investigations? Our guests tonight, His Lordship Erias Lukwago, the Lord Mayor of Kampala. You're most welcome, Lord Mayor.
Thank you.
We're also joined by Hon Raphael Magyezi, Igara West Mp, also Vice Chairman of the Public Service and Local Governments Committee. You're most welcome, Hon Magyezi.
Thank you, and greetings to our listeners.
Honorable Lord Mayor, today KCC began to enforce its order asking for 120,000 shillings from the taxi drivers. Some of them have paid, some of them are opposed to it. Some taxis were impounded and others stayed away, causing a transport crisis. You're supposed to give us good service delivery, that is for all city dwellers. Why are you not agreeing to get services out?
First and foremost, let me correct the impression created that it is KCCA which sanctioned the operation today and indeed carried out the same. That's not true, because KCCA is an institution within the meaning of the Act, and it is charged with the management of the affairs of the city, and it has got various departments, but it is supposed to operate through meetings and resolutions. That's the order provided for in the Act. That was never complied with, and that has been the bone of contention in this exercise of levying dues onto the taxis. And when you look at specifically Section 7, it specifies, rather it clearly states that taxation levels or dues shall be determined by the authority. And we have had controversies before. Since we kicked out Utoda, the argument was, if Utoda was fleecing these people of colossal sums of money, should we also be seen to be doing the same? My answer was no, and many others were in agreement. But our colleagues in the technical wing computed the original fares as were being charged by Utoda to a tune of 155, put them in the assessment form, and issued out the same. There were protests. So that would force us back to the drawing board as the authority to determine how much. Unfortunately, the Office of the Executive Director came up with the idea of a sum of 120. From nowhere, it was really an arbitrary figure, which was submitted to the two standing committees of the authority. And we thought, yes, if it was a view of the Executive Director and her team, she would defend the same in the authority meeting. after when the committee presents the report. Surprisingly, the committee just announced the figure without bringing the report to the authority. It's like a committee where Magyezi is a member, the public service, after you get a proposal, you just implement the same without presenting it to plenary. Yes. That would be quite irregular.
Right.
And many other MPs would not be on the side of Mr. Magyezi. Even if the idea is good, they would say, no, that's not the way to go. So this is exactly what they did. I called the authority meeting, which you would call a plenary on 7th. But you remember the saga.
Didn't show up, some of them.
Some councillors did not show up, and even the mess somehow disappeared. But eventually we located it. Because this is a symbol.
So even the mess vanished.
It vanished somehow.
Yes.
But subsequently we traced it. But the whole point is, as the authority, we have never sat down, because myself because that was a figure from the technical team, and myself I felt like as an elected person or leader, I owe allegiance to the people, and I needed to listen to them, and that is the hallmark of consultative leadership. That's the only way you can guarantee the will of the people.
How much do they want to pay?
They proposed the 70, and they had 70,000 per month.
Well, but you can't ask a man to name his price. They might as well say, we do it for free, we don't pay you anything.
No.
Because originally you had one.
This is not a tax.
You had 155,000.
It's like a rent,
tested, and then you agree on 120. It sounds more realistic.
Rent is negotiable. We are charging them rent to operate in our taxi parks. This is not a tax to say like if it were like income tax or sales tax. That's a different matter. But this is rent, which is negotiable. It's like you are renting somebody's premises. You've got to sit on a round table. One or the other, you do tell this person.
But they've been paying 155,000. Now you want to slash it in the middle.
And that has been the complaint they have always put forward. They said, no. This is very, very unfair. They are cheating us.
Give us your view on that before we come back to Lord Mayor.
Well, thank you very much. I'm a bit surprised to hear KCCA did not sanction the operation today, because that's the impression we got at Parliament and generally in the public, that because of the strike by taxi operators, KCCA sat and said, well, how do we bridge the gap? And so we thought that's what they had done. But now when His Lordship, the Mayor, says, no, there must be a problem. Because for me, I don't see how the police could allow unregistered vehicles on the road. And not only that, but to ferry passengers. Now, we want the buses. The public is waiting for the buses, and good enough.
But they have to be regulated.
But they have to be regulated.
Right, we'll talk about the buses in a short while. First of all, Honorable Magyezi, let's talk about this fee. Who should set the fee? Originally it was 155,000. They were paying it. Now, it goes down. They want it to be slashed to 70. That sounds
the fee, whether it's 150, whether it's 70, whether it's 20, whether it is what, this is a matter that is solely in the docket of KCCA. But KCCA is not one person. It is actually the authority, and under the law, the authority is the council. So, I think the two arms, the technical and the political, have come together, and they agree on the correct amount. And yes, the taxi operators are saying they want to pay 70,000 and so on. For us, we think in the public, this is a matter that they can sort out. This is not a matter that should cause a strike and a standoff. Why don't they sit down with the taxi operators and they agree on the correct amount? But what would shock me would be one arm of the authority to sit down and say, for us, we are taking this fee. It is, as he says, it's not a trading license, it is not a tax. It's an operational permit. It is something to allow you to operate within the authority. So I hope in the next 1 or 2 days this can be sorted out. How much should the taxi operator pay to KCCA? But of course there is another question. How much were they paying?
We know they were paying 155,000 on average a month.
This is not beyond what they were paying. Now, if they want to pay 70 and KCCA is asking for 120, I think for me it is a matter of negotiation. But the final authority belongs to KCCA as an authority, as a council.
Not one wing of it.
No, it can't be one wing.
Just information. They were not as such paying 150 because
that was the maximum they could operate on all the days.
No, the monthly sticker fee was 20,000. But on a daily basis, we thought I would collect 4,500.
Yes.
On the understanding that half of that 4,500 would go towards their revolving fund. They were saying this money being kept for them to help them. Welfare was there as loading fee, but this was also some fund of sorts. So, in other words, they were saying it's only 2,250 Uganda shillings, which would go towards the KCCA, together with the 20,000. So, when you compute that, you would get almost 70,000, 2,250 on a daily basis, plus 20,000 monthly. It would give you a figure of 70, and this is the justification they are giving. It's around 69,950, something.
70,000.
Around roughly 70,000.
I think that makes a lot of sense right now.
That is the argument they were advancing. And they were saying they are actually working towards recovering all the sums Utoda had collected from them illegally and not reimbursed to them, because the understanding was that this is an association of the drivers. They are keeping part of it for them, and they would recover it on rainy days. So, but it was not given back to them. That was the understanding. So should the cases also be seen to be doing the same? We are saying no, we have no business with welfare. There is another arm to it.
Yes.
Another aspect to this. After kicking out Utoda, the executive director goes ahead to appoint a 19-man committee to manage taxi business.
Yes.
Composed of political leaders.
We'll talk about that in a short while. But first of all, what can we expect in the next couple of days? You called a council meeting, you couldn't get a quorum. So when are we going to get a decision? So that
I was working around the clock to ensure that we call another meeting.
Yes.
But with all these developments, it becomes extremely difficult. Today you are thinking along these lines, then you are shocked with the new developments. So as you contend with this or grapple with this particular situation, then new developments emerge, and this is the kind of situation we are engrossed in. So that's the problem. But I have no problem calling a meeting as early as possible.
So for you, you're stuck in concrete, 70,000.
Because what do we do? Even if it's not 70 anyway, somebody would justify 120 in a meeting. But it cannot be the executive director, you fix the fees payable, you are the one to collect it, and you are the same person to disburse it because you are the accounting officer. That would be very, very absurd.
Right.
So this is the issue we are saying. Even if in a meeting the proposal for 70 is thrown out, because it may also not be perfect.
Right. So you are ready for that? There
would be no problem.
The council meeting.
Somebody would say, okay, let's have a middle ground. Okay, they are talking about 120. The executive director is talking about 120. The drivers are talking about 70.
Okay.
Can we have 90, for example, or something middle ground for the start?
Okay.
I
think you've covered that very well. Let's talk about the buses. Today they were on the roads, no plate numbers. How can you allow such a thing to happen? And you say you didn't sanction them.
Yes, it's another shocking matter to us, at least to me as the road mayor. I just woke up to that shocking news. Very disturbing. Actually, I was baffled myself to see that these vehicles were on the road. Earlier alone, we were being accused of frustrating investors, myself as the road mayor, and to a certain extent MPs. And when the last time we appeared in Parliament, because Parliament has been probing into all these matters, the propriety of the war arrangement, so that we can have an orderly kind of conduct of business in Kampala. The biggest problem we have, we do not have a transport policy. You can't blame it on Parliament, you can't blame it on, but there is no comprehensive policy on public transport in Kampala here. So Parliament said, okay, fine, let's see how best we can handle this. And they collected views from various stakeholders. So we are waiting for the report to come to show us the way to go. All of a sudden, you see the buses on the road. Again, I will ask whoever brought the buses on the road, where is the minute of the authority? Where did we sit? When? There's nothing. Two, It even defeats laws in this country to have buses which are not registered. I presume actually they don't even have a registration book. No, yes.
Or logbooks.
Logbooks or what. They don't have, but they're on the road. But the biggest question we have had before, I don't know whether they can advance it again, issues of, because we have not been debating whether the buses should come or not. Yeah. And this is where I have got a problem with the media. You, Edmond, let me accuse you and everybody in this industry.
Yes.
You have derailed the debate to the issue as to whether the buses should come, actually to the extent that you have even been conducting opinion polls.
Yes.
I would come here. Do you support the buses or not? That's not the issue. It's very, very clear. All of us agree that there should be buses, there should be matatus, there should be train, there should be what. But the question is, what is it that is entailed in this concession agreement, which was never implemented within the parameters given under the contract?
Yes. And
the rights they wanted, are they really tenable under the circumstances? We have the infrastructure in place. They want exclusive rights for a particular lane on these very narrow roads. And the question we are asking, should we create a lane, a specific lane for Pioneer is a bus specifically, not any other company? It's
not practicable.
For Pioneer is a bus, which is a private limited liability company on these narrow roads. And that is the question.
Right.
Even going beyond our borders, as beyond Kampala to other areas. And also, they wanted us, this bus we have got from your tongue, something
in China.
In China. They wanted the direct money lenders something, a guarantee of sorts, that where they go bankrupt, we step in as guarantors to pay.
Yes.
We don't know the financial capacity of this company. Right. But going back to this other issue, we are asking, where is the impact, rather the traffic impact assessment report? Yes. When we create a lane specifically for Pioneer is a bus, you carve off, you demarcate it off the road.
Yes.
On either side of the road, because it has.
You can't do it. The roads are too narrow.
So the volume of traffic you are left with, can it fit within the remaining portion of the road? That is the issue.
Honorable Magyezi, talk to us about what Parliament is doing to help this, because there seems a lot of comings and goings out of the Whitehall that are not helping the city at all.
Well, you know, as I was coming, I thought since the taxis are on strike, we would have less congestion. There is even a bigger traffic jam in the city. I think the introduction of the buses must be carefully done. We want the buses. We want competition. It does help. We want cheaper and more reliable mode of transport in the city. But Parliament received a petition from Mukono, Kira, Nansana, Entebbe, Wakiso, these other urban authorities surrounding the city council. And they had their own concerns. One, the statutory instrument, the Traffic and Road Safety, in brackets, City Bus Operations Regulations, which was done last year, was actually not favoring them. It talks about city bus services, and then inside it is actually allowing bus operators to extend to their authorities without involving them. Two, I think they were also concerned about the sharing of revenue with KCCA, as the Lordship, the mayor, has said.
Which you would expect, because they are faced with a loss of revenue.
Yeah, of course, it affects their revenue, and it also affects their own other service providers. They have contracts with other service providers, and here you are, you're introducing buses, and they're asking, what is this? How do we relate with each other? So we've interviewed, we've talked to various stakeholders, KCCA, these other authorities, the relevant ministers, and so on and so forth, including the taxi operators. There are certain issues which we cannot overlook. First of all, the contract between KCCA and Pioneer is a Bus Company Limited. The contract, to our understanding, actually expired on 16th December last year. They were given a 1-year contract, renewable only after performance and after evaluation. They hadn't performed, there was no evaluation. They needed to sit down and have a new mandate in law. Secondly, they're talking of the routes. You don't just launch buses to start running up and down. The routes must be gazetted. They must be earmarked. The lanes must be known. For example, today, KCCA has a contract, I'm sure, with Multiplex. So if you are going to...
The parking company.
Yeah, the parking
management
spaces.
company.
Now, if you are going to turn some of those spaces into bus lanes, then that is something to consider. They must sit down on table and understand each other. The infrastructure, you're talking of the bus stops, the bus stages. I've seen these buses stopping everywhere like taxis. So we are in for some more serious matter. Then the fares. The fares must be agreed and fixed and determined by the authority. The authorities, in this case, KCCA, it's not something that, the bus operator will sit and say, now from here to Rugazi, today we are charging 500, tomorrow we are charging 800, there are more passengers, so we are now going to 1,000. This is a serious matter, much as today, the passengers are happy that the fares today were low.
We don't know what
would happen tomorrow or next week, and that can raise a serious matter. Then you have these concerns of the other authorities. Now the buses are going to SETA. They are reaching, and you can't avoid them. You can't run buses which you don't reach Nasana.
Yes.
You can't run buses
which go
don't
outside of Kampala.
They must.
Authority.
So within the law, KCCA Act, Section 22, we talk of the Metropolitan Authority, which is supposed to be in place to manage transport within the metropolitan area.
That's beyond Kampala
That
City.
is beyond Kampala City. So today we've seen buses moving. We thought, as I've said, that it was simply a crisis management by KCCA, saying now the taxis are on strike, what do we do? But I think they must now sit on table with the Mukono, with Wakiso, with MPG, with Entebbe, and they agree on the fundamentals, on the construction of the shelters and bus stops, on the sharing of revenue, on the management of this service. Then there is this question of the inspection of the buses and the licensing. There is no way, dear listeners, you can run a vehicle on a public road which is not registered.
Yes.
Let alone allowing that vehicle to ferry public goods or passengers. So today we've seen vehicles, moving. They are not registered, and by that fact it means they are not inspected. And if they are not inspected, then they are not licensed. And if they are not licensed,
probably not insured as well.
They are not insured, probably. So anything happening to our passengers, it would raise a very serious question to KCCA. And for me, I would appeal to KCCA immediately to sit and face this fact. So we have these issues and others on table. As a Committee of Parliament, we've talked to the various stakeholders. We are yet to come out with our reports, but we've given them our assurance. Within the next very few days, 7, 8, 10, we should be presenting our reports to Parliament.
All right. Well, listeners, this is Spectrum on Radio 1. Tonight, the standoff between KCCA and the taxi drivers and conductors. What are the issues and what should the way forward be? We're going for a break. When we come back, we'll look at you today. What's the way forward? A 19-man committee appointed. There's still controversy over that. The KCCA executive director, well, you've probably come to expect that. And the Lord Mayor don't seem to agree. We'll also find out what is going to happen to the buses. They were running today without registration numbers. We'll be back, to stay tuned.
John, Mike and I, we go back a bit. We knew John at the beginning, working for someone else. But he was different. He had vision, saw opportunities. He started working towards his goal, opened his own garage, and worked, learning the hard way. His reputation spread. Trust, consistency, quality. Soon people were coming to him from all parts. He made himself and his whole street prosper, and also helped friends, seeing potential in people and helping them on. But John never shouts about all his success. He's just who he is. Special.
So here's to men like John, who make a difference, who enjoy Nile Special, the rich, satisfying taste from the source. Nile Special.
You've earned it.
Not for sale to persons under 18.
Promotion. Kutoka MTN. We send million shillings every day for 90 days. SMS win to 175.
Win, everybody. It is time to win lots of money. And all you have to do is Sukun SMS. Big up MTN for this promotion.
Win 10 million shillings every day for 90 days. Simply SMS WIN to 175 to play and win. MTN Sukuma SMS.
Terms and conditions apply.
MTN. Everywhere you go.
Spectrum on Radio 1 FM 90 is brought to you by Stanbic Bank.
Welcome back on Spectrum. Tonight, the standoff between KCCA and taxi drivers, as well as conductors. What are the issues and the way forward? What should the way forward be? Our guests tonight, Hon Erias Lukwago, his Lordship, the Lord Mayor of Kampala, and Hon Raphael Magyezi, Igara West Mp, also Vice Chairman of the Public Service and Local Government Committee. You'll be able to call in and contribute to this discussion. Lord Mayor, talk to us about this 19-man committee that you people instituted and how it's going to run the taxi fares, also about these buses running on the road without insurance. How are you going to handle these two issues?
Again, I will disappoint you. I have little information about it. It was announced on a public holiday on 8th, again by the Office of the Executive Director at a press conference. And myself, I saw a document from one of the people, the media people, from the journalist who gave me a copy when he wanted my comment on the same. But it was really, again, very disturbing that a committee was appointed. I don't know. We did not sit as the authority. And in any case, if one wanted such a committee to be put in place, their procedures would go into a meeting, would discuss all the issues. So I don't know much about that committee. I've just read about it in the press, and I'm still wondering. I'm still puzzled. Actually,
you don't expect it to operate?
How? I don't know. Now there are a number of issues. One, the composition itself. It's composed of politicians. There is a mayor of Nakawa. There are councillors from the authority. There are also technical people. The director for finance is there, and some staff from the directorate. There are people from the taxi industry, the drivers. They are from Utoda. There is Katongole, Kamia, and others who are there, originally who belonged to Utoda, and that's how it was constituted. So now, and it was called the KCCA Taxi Management Committee. Said now, and its mandate is to manage the taxi affairs and submit weekly reports
to the authority.
I don't know, because if you looked at the authority, agree on that. If you looked at the authority in section 6, it's very clear. How can they?
It's the committee that you had.
It's yes,
holds those meetings.
Exactly. So now we did not.
So you don't expect the 19 committee. You according to it has no validity. That's what you think.
First and foremost, it is not established in accordance with the law. It lacks legal mandate. But most importantly, it is composed of people who belong to different fields, and it's hard to contemplate together to create a committee. To create a committee. They're too diverse. Yes. Now, like the individuals, specifically the Utoda people, Katongo and others. Yes. Are they now employees of KCCA? Well, they contract. Or they are just our kanyamas to help us whip the people to pay? Or they are independent contractors? Have they signed a contract with us? If they are independent contractors, they have got to go through the procurement processes.
They'll be vetted, and so
they have to, if they are to come as independent contractors. Now, how are they going to be remunerated? Those ones. All because right. The payments, according to the arrangement, are supposed to be made directed to the banks. You get an assessment form like a tax operator. Once it's given to you, you pay directly to the bank. So I don't know how these categories are going to be paid. These are all fundamental issues we needed to discuss before the communication was issued.
Before we hear from the Member of Parliament, talk to us about the buses. How are we going to go about those?
No, definitely, the buses are on the road illegally. There might be excitement or enthusiasm about the same. I don't know, I'm yet to establish. But the fact remains, there are a number of issues to be sorted out. And there is no shortcut. Unless they are just going to operate like any other public transport carrier, or like matatus, or coasters. There will be no problem if they are just going to be on the road without going into a concession arrangement without preferential treatment. If they want a preferential treatment, they have to sign a contract with the KCCA. If they like a exclusive lane, which I've said for me I don't support
can't
at all.
have that in this.
It cannot, it cannot, and that's the sticking issue actually. One of the sticking issues
for them because they can't get them.
But they need them.
Honorable Magyezi, talk to us about this. We're supposed to have this 19-man committee, which looks like different parts, hodgepodge of things of people with no. What's going on? You're supposed to oversee these people.
I've worked with the local governments for quite a number of years, and for me, the advice I would give to KCCA is you have no way out but to work within the law. The establishment of committees, subcommittees, this is within the ambit of the authority. And when you make a committee that includes people outside the authority, then you have serious questions in terms of payments, in terms of accountability and so on.
But it's the executive director from the KCCA, from the authority. What's the problem with that?
There is the authority is not the executive director. The authority is not the mayor. The authority is actually the council.
Exactly.
I think that's the...
So when the executive director announces that, what are you going to do about that?
No,
is she outside of the law, what?
She will be guided, I'm sure, to understand that taxi management, or setting the guidelines and rules on rates, on fares, on taxes and so on fees, this is different from the day-to-day supervision and management, which then is technical. But things to do with policy within the KCCA,
they belong to the Lord Mayor.
It belongs to the council.
Exactly.
So really we have to advise each other to work within the law. As I've said earlier, today, yes, we may have needed the buses, but tomorrow somebody must be out there to say, Mr. Policeman, if you have allowed Pioneer is a bus to run without registration, how will you arrest me when I import a vehicle and I start running it on the road?
Yes.
So we must work within the law. And I look at, in terms of a way forward, really, we must respect the views of other local governments within this question of buses. If there is a need for dialogue, then KCCA must sit with Mukono, with Wakiso, and with Entebbe and Kira, and they work out a clear way forward. As on our part as Parliament, we work on the review of the statutory instrument, the regulation, the legal framework that allows these people to operate in that manner within the metropolitan area. As also on our side, we work with the minister to establish the Metropolitan Authority. But that does not prohibit KCCA from working together with other authorities, from respecting the rights and mandates of the other authorities. And I think there's this question of exclusivity, of concession, giving exclusive rights to one player over the others. The taxi operators came up with their own petition to Parliament, really requesting that they shouldn't be pushed out of the city. And as you've seen, monopoly can be very dangerous.
Yes.
So it's good to have other players on board. So we advise KCCA that even as they think of the concession agreement, which has to be reviewed, which has to be renewed, I would insist, because the one they signed,
the concession with the bus,
with the Pioneer is a bus company, the one they signed expired, so they still have to renew it. Again, within that, they should ensure fair play for all other providers.
You're saying they should open it to other bus operators,
exactly, exactly. So, but this is serious, because when you release 500 buses on our roads without considering the issue of their parking, where are they going to park? Without considering the issue of their bus stops, you can actually create a more serious traffic jam here in the city. These are buses, these are not small cars which can maneuver their way throughout. And then you have to look at these routes. These buses are not going to run anyhow. The road does not allow that. So we like them.
They must have designated
the route must be designated and gazetted. It must be known that this is the route, and this is the time, and this is the stop. So if I wait for this bus at 7 and it's not there, as a passenger I have a right to complain. And there are also regulations governing the passengers on these buses. So, as I've said, yes, today there was a crisis, but I hope KCCA can quickly sit and sort this out. If we continue over the next week, another 2 weeks, seeing buses running like this can be challenging.
No, but even this idea of a crisis, I don't agree with it, Honorable Magyezi, with due respect. It's not an act of God. It's because of your fault, one's fault, that it happens. Actually, it's not even by omission, but by commission. You create a crisis, and then you press the panic button. That's not the way to handle.
Let's look at the way forward. Give the people some hope, Honorable Lord Mayor. What can they expect in the next week and the next coming months? So this kind of things will continue going back.
No, these quick fixes cannot solve problems.
Well, what can we expect on practical?
This is what I'm saying.
In the next week.
This is what I'm saying. People press the panic button, bring the buses, get the taxis, do this and that. To handle these very complex matters, what is going to happen? Definitely we shall have to go back to the drawing board and look at the transport policy, one way or the other. Once Parliament has pronounced itself on this issue, I believe one way it's going to guide us. That is as far as the issue of the buses is concerned. Two, we are working around the clock again with other stakeholders. I've been in touch with the Minister for Kampala, Honorable Mukasa, on these issues of how we can, despite the differences we have, how can we come up with a policy in this critical, this vital area.
Well, when you talk about a policy, you talk about the long term. What's going to happen in the interim?
In the interim?
Tomorrow in the morning as people get up to go to work.
Well, I don't know. Shall we say Kaihura and his team will just continue clamping down on these people? Well, the confusion may persist for some
few days. If police clamps down on the taxi drivers, what do you think they should do? They should let them operate tomorrow?
No, I think Kaihura should advise the technical people, the executive director and her team, that please go back to Stay Hall and sort out these issues first before we unleash chaos to the public.
So they should suspend the bus fees?
Not bus fees or
the taxi fees?
They should. This 120,000, it's an illegal tax. And it is not anywhere allowed in the world that you can descend on people, whip them to pay an illegal tax. That's what I've refused to do. However much we want revenue, I know very much we want it, but I've been telling you, even this amount, you look at it as if it is small, 70,000. If we have 20,000 matatus in Kampala, that is 1.4 billion per month.
Yes.
A year, in a given financial year, you're in a region of 170 billion against a budget for against projections for local collections.
70 billion.
44 billion. No, it's, yeah,
40 billion from the taxes.
From the taxes alone. And this is one component. You know, you've got other revenue sources. But if you are charging 120,000 against, if we proceeding on the assumption that the taxes are 20,000 in number here,
yes,
you are going to collect around 28 billion in a given financial year.
Okay.
And yet our projection is 44. It's as if you are collecting from only one source. You have property rates, huge buildings here which do not pay property rates. You have got ground rents, you've got trading license, you've got different sorts of revenue, including even the central government, the central coffers. Why are you descending on these people to compound their lives when you can get much more
from other sources?
Well,
let's hear from the listeners right now. This is Spectrum on Radio 1. Tonight, the standoff between KCCA and taxi drivers and conductors. What are the issues and the way forward? You can call in now. Our number is 0414-348-111, 0312-260-390, 0312-261-390. Spectrum, hello?
Yes, please. To me, Max.
Yes, Max.
You see, I would like to put the mayor to one task. And I know he can make things happen. He's a good leader, by the way. But, Mr. Mayor, you have to inform the association that leads the taxis in Kampala that this association, which I suppose is Dakar, must readjust to try and put up to the new challenges that have come up to affect the taxis. For example, Dakar must have an established office and it should stop running in an informal manner. It must have its own guys who supervise and put back to discipline the bad drivers. And when passengers have complaints, they should know where to run to.
Spectrum, hello?
Yes, hello?
Your name?
Yeah, this is Otto. Otto.
Yes, sir.
You see, I'm one of those who supported Erias Lukwago to be the mayor, and as up to now, I still support him. He's a very clear-headed man. However, it would be expecting so much from him, an elected leader like me, to come on that pavilion and say the taxis should comply with the new fares. He can't do that. He went there through votes. So even if from the bottom of his heart he knows the fares are good, he cannot come out as a public leader to say these people should pay. So what I think, and I'm by the way one of those MPs who is lobbying so hard in Parliament, we must allow these bus companies to start operating. We should not politicize every single thing. Let me pose a simple question to the Lord Mayor. If the fares are 120,000, why can't the taxi people revert that fee on the end user? This is an inelastic demand, transport. So if people were paying 1.5 today, let them say pay 1.8 because they are paying 120 to KCCA. Why don't they want to do that? Because they know they cannot compete with Pioneer Bus and other companies. So these taxi people should be helped to comply. And I would want the officials of KCCA, they must stick their feet to the ground. If the fare is 200,000, let them pay. Let the taxi owners revert the fee to the final user. Because as of now, Pioneer Bus is charging 800. These taxi operators are charging 1,500 without these licenses. So these things of politicizing every aspect of the city should stop. So,
all right. Okay.
Yes.
Spectrum, hello.
Good evening, Edmond.
Good evening, your name?
I'm as usual. Thank you for the guest, Pastor Lord Mayor. To me, I want to disagree with the Lord Mayor for one point. All along he has been sabotaging the authority, because that plan, you see, is helping the authority to get money, and that's where he's paid. When he says that at least they should pay 70,000, and that money is enough, I don't think he's planning. He has a goodwill for this city, so the team will just leave for the executive like that, take the city where it is. Fine.
Spectrum, hello.
Yes, Edmond.
Yes, my friend, your name?
Good evening, Hugh.
Good evening, your name?
I salute the Lord Mayor. This is Kalamba Christopher calling from Rosita. Now, Lord Mayor, first of all, thank you for what you've been doing to the local people, and just keep it up. But my question, Edmond, is one. How sure are we that these fares for the bus are going to remain the same?
Okay, Spectrum, hello. Hello?
Yes, this is Linus.
Yes, Linus.
Now, I know very well the taxi drivers are the mayor's voters, and then the very many thousands of people suffering are also voted for the mayor. Now, I think people have suffered enough under this taxi, the small matatus. I think it's high time the mayor woke up and allowed, sat down with Jennifer, and then they let the buses do their work.
Spectrum, hello. Hello.
Hello.
Yes, your name?
I'm sorry for repeating Mr. Lukwago's point, but I wanted to reiterate that
your name again?
Get deep into this business of the taxi. It's one of those businesses with the lowest possible turnover. You won't believe that these guys go home with about 20,000 or 10,000. They may raise about 70,000, but a lot of it goes into taxations, including some money they release to the police. I would want to suggest that let as much as possible the city council look at an alternate way of earning. Otherwise, they could as well leave a space for that cost to transfer to the passenger. For example, upping the cost on the passenger by 200 shillings.
Spectrum, hello. Yes.
Good evening.
Good evening, your name?
Church Ambrose Lukenya is my name. Yes, I have just a single question. That I remember that Mr. Erias Lukwago, the Lord Mayor, through that he started a struggle of scrapping Utoda, and people were behind his struggle. Through what was the alternative? Here is the an alternative to see that maybe a person like Church Ambrose, who depend on public, maybe transport, can as well get an alternative. The alternative is being fought. The other thing was scrapped. Do you have certain graders that will assist Church Ambrose to get it transported?
Spectrum, hello. The trains are also coming. Spectrum, hello. Hello. Yes, your name?
Good evening.
Good evening, your name?
Hello?
Yes, sir, your name?
Good evening.
Good evening to you.
Now, I want to ask the Lord Mayor, if previously the taxi drivers were paying 150,000 minus the loading fees which they were being charged in the park. Now, what's wrong with the 120? I think the 120 is okay.
All right, let's get back to the studio. Lord Mayor.
Let me start with the last caller. I have said this before and I want to repeat myself. If 120 is okay, does it mean it should not even go to the authority for debate? And this takes me back to my good friend Hon Raphael. I would expect him to appreciate these people, these issues better than anybody else, because he's in Parliament. If a matter which requires endorsement on sanctioning of Parliament is not brought to Parliament, say for example, today or tomorrow, I'm sure you are supporting the anti-homosexuality bill. If today before it is debated and passed, you find Kayihura enforcing the same, or the public order management bill, it's not passed by Parliament, but it's being enforced. No, at least public management or the management bill, you are against it. But the anti-homosexuality law, if it is being enforced simply because you support the idea, would it be okay? So the whole point is, we needed to pass a lawful, and Otto is a lawyer.
Yes.
He knows it. This 120 is not supported by any legal instrument whatsoever. It is not supported by a resolution of the authority.
Okay.
So it's a one man's position.
All right.
And whether you have justification, these other people have also got their views how to talk about the 70s. So it's not politicizing the issue when we say let's follow the procedure.
Yes.
It's not politicizing it. And about the buses, I hope you got my argument. It's not that we are opposed to the buses, but mine, away from these other issues, if you told me that these people do not want, they no longer want a guarantee from us to get these buses.
Guarantee from government?
From KCCA.
Go on.
I wouldn't have a problem too if they abandon the idea of having an exclusive lane for themselves for 5 years on these narrow roads. Today it would be the same auto would be accusing me if I signed an agreement with the Pioneer is a bus that we have created 2 lanes for you on either side of the road for 5 years, and you should not be disturbed at all. And the rest of other road users, you are restricted to the remaining. You split yourself with the remaining portion. Auto would be crying today if like they jumped on the road today. If it were the arrangement, Hon Raphael Magyezi has just told you the jam is too much, even without matatus. So supposing we created a lane specifically for Pioneer is a bus, what would happen? Just if you want these buses today or yesterday, Hon Raphael, just tell Pioneer is a buses to abandon the idea of having an exclusive lane for themselves. About this gentleman, lastly, the gentleman who talked about reorganizing DACA, and the Church Ambrose who's asking for the alternative. Look, DACA has got no contract with the KCCA. So it's a private association of drivers. Just like there are many others, Nuto, Futi, and many others. They are there.
Yes.
So I have no business in reorganizing DACA because it's a private association. Okay. But that cannot, because we do not have a contract with DACA, it doesn't mean you create an illegal committee to manage tax affairs.
Hon Raphael Magyezi. Yes, please. You can respond to some of these questions.
I think I would like to say we need to sort out technical issues as we allow the service to proceed. But we must do this within the legal framework. For example, Christopher asks, how sure are we that the fares will stay? You can only be sure when these fares have been sanctioned by KCCA and have been made part and parcel of the contract. But if somebody today says it's 800, tomorrow he has no reason for not saying it's 1,000. So that's why, for me, I would insist, sort out these technicalities, but without making it hard for the service to start. Second, I would like to really propose that we sort out as soon as we can this relationship between the political aspect and the technical arm of KCCA.
The Lord Mayor and the ED.
I think for me, this seat belongs to all of us. It does not belong to any one or two people. It is important that His Lordship the Mayor and the ED sit together and work out the best service for the city dwellers. The people want the buses, there is no doubt. There are technical issues which can be sorted out. There are policy issues which can be sorted out. So for me, to try to act alone is very dangerous. They must sit together and do the best for the people of Kampala. As for us as Parliament, we are going to present our report soonest, and we shall make our recommendations with respect to the petitions that came from the other authorities, but also mindful of what the people of Kampala desire and what they deserve. I think the rest really, in terms of the questions, it was mainly, you could see people want the buses.
Yes.
But we must help the people to realize that you cannot jump onto buses which are not inspected, which are not licensed. It's very dangerous.
Right.
So let's sort out the technicalities, and hopefully this should be done soonest so that people enjoy the bus service. As the mayor says, these buses will need parking. They will need lanes. They will need to compete with other service providers. This must be done in an orderly manner. If we don't put order within the service, we can expect chaos. So hopefully, really the population will bear with KCCA, be a little bit patient, so that, yes, as the buses
just move, a quick one,
we sort out these
just
issues.
A quick one, quick information. Right now, they are parking at Nambole. That is the terminal for these buses.
Yes.
And in the city center?
In the city center, just here around the State Square.
In Naguru as well.
They are in the State Square. So we can't keep on. I mean, for me, if you ask me as a person who is supposed to.
But what's wrong with parking in Nambole? There's a lot of space there.
Oh my God, that's a different. It's a stadium.
There's no football every day.
No, it's a stadium. It's a different facility. That's why we chased away. That's why we chased away Kahura's men when they had turned it into a barracks.
We have to go. Thank you very much, dear guest. Honorable Erias Lukwago, His Lordship, the Mayor, Lord Mayor of Kampala. Thank you for coming to Spectrum. Hon Raphael Magyezi, Member of Parliament for Igara West, Vice Chairman of the Public Service and Local Government Committee. Thank you for tuning in. I've been your host, Edmond Kizito. Spectrum will be back tomorrow. Up next, though, is the news in English. Do stay tuned.